is...
I just thought
Good evening, everyone. It's 7 o'clock, so can we open the public session of our meeting, please? I understand, I don't know, Brian, do you want to say something?
I do.
Okay, and how about...
can't remember my name.
Yeah.
No, no.
Roger.
No.
Okay, and Jackie wants to talk to us about planning. So, Brian, do you want to kick off, please?
Yeah, okay. I just want to talk about the bus service improvement plan, which most of you know about. And Somerset put in for £165 million for improvement, but what's happened is that they only got £11.9 million, which is 7% of the total. The money is for new bus routes only and improved bus services. The government is keen for capital expenditure to go on bus priority schemes, but sadly most of this will be spent on schemes in Taunton. And Somerset County Council acknowledges that more money needs to be spent, and the challenge now is to find ways of funding the expenditure, given that it was awarded only 7% of its request. We need to consider the manifesto pledges, which are credible. Our own MP received a letter for request, as did many of others and recent candidates. They were asked what their stance would be on improving bus services. But in our own case, particular case in Brentnall, we need to put pressure on our request for a service to operate from Weston-super-Mare to Burnham-on-Sea via East Brentnall and return, to show that there is an urgent need for the route, and also that the favourable effect on the environment will be palpable. I'd also like to ask Bob if he has any further points on it and what you suggest we might try. Thank you.
I would only say at the moment, you're absolutely right in terms of the figures you gave about what the government had paid and what was the shortfall in terms of the request. There were a lot of the authorities who put in plans who got absolutely nothing. What they've said to Somerset at the moment is that they liked the plan, they were giving us an amount towards it, and that hopefully this was the first instalment, so we are hopeful that there will be more coming down the track. In terms of what we need to do at the moment, I think it is a question of keeping pressure on the administration for the western route. We'll certainly carry on pushing for that, because I think it is a viable route that we got going again. There is a demand for it, so I think it is a question of, as I say, keep the pressure on. I'll certainly do that through county as well.
Do I need to do anything?
I wouldn't think you need to at the moment. If you're still prepared to be involved with the Bus Back Better group,
yes,
then they are still going to keep lobbying as well.
Yeah.
And there were, as you say, commitments in both of the main parties' manifestos to putting money into the buses.
Yes.
Everyone would hope that will be delivered on. So we'll keep the pressure on to say that it's time to put the money where the mouth was.
It's over to you for the time being.
For the moment,
Let me know.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for keeping you involved, Brian. Very grateful, and knowing we'll make
I'm
sure...
going to go home now, Tom. Bottle of red waiting for me.
Brian, make sure you go straight home now.
I'll try. See you.
Bye, nice to see you. Bye-bye.
And you.
Jackie Hughes wants to talk to us about her planning application for which we're going to discuss tonight, which is 00006, which is on your minutes. Jackie.
Good evening. Chairman, Councillors, thank you for allowing me to speak this evening regarding my application for the new dwelling on the west side of Journey's End at Station Road. In light of your concerns with the original planning application, we've worked with Sedgemoor Planning, who have given a positive response to the amended proposals, and I for your consideration. We've reduced the roof to a minimum of 1 metre. The house is more of a cottage appearance, so it keeps more in with the varied mixture of 1- and 2-storey properties within the village. The single-storey garage is to remain on the east side, alongside the existing garage of the neighbouring property, allowing space between the two actual properties of 7.8 metres. The existing 2-metre fence between the two properties is to be retained. I've grown up in this village and spent the majority of my adult life living at Journey's End and wish to stay here in Brentnall. This piece of land is in my ownership and I do not own any other land at Brentnall, and it sits within the village development boundary and has always been my wish to develop a small dwelling for myself and my son, who has also lived in the village many years. I can trace back 4 generations of my family living in the village, and I welcome your support to this application, and thank you for listening.
Thank you. I take it that as councillors we've all had a look at the planning, but could you, I don't know if Jane can help us, whether she wants to, but how has it changed? What I see is from the original plan, are you saying that, well, the original roof structure was meant to be sloping roofs at either end?
It was originally as a hip,
Yes.
but when I discussed with the planning officer, because obviously there was a problem with the height, they agreed that by dropping it, I've dropped that a metre and brought it in over the windows to sort of pull the roof down, so that the roof is less of a mass, actually. But if you were looking at it and decided you would prefer to see hips on it, there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to do something with that, if that would help with your consideration.
Yeah. So the square footage of the development has remained the same, but what you've done is reduced.
We've reduced it, yes.
Yeah, and just a matter of interest, whereas actually that's probably the best one. This was the original with a huge hipped roof
Yes.
structure.
Yeah, it was
And
higher.
on the design, they've lowered the roof, but they've put in dormer window. I think that's right.
Yes,
So
that's
there's
right.
dormer windows
Yeah.
on each side of the properties, front and back. It's interesting. The garage. I didn't realise you presumably live, Jackie, in the house that is near the railway.
Yeah,
there.
that's where I lived,
Okay. So you're still going to retain that residence?
Yeah, my brother lives there at the moment,
Okay.
yeah.
Right, okay. So it's really, and it is butting up to the garage of the other property.
The garage of the other property is a tandem one, so it goes nearly to the back of their garden.
Yeah.
Mine's only a single,
Okay.
so yeah, the 2 garages will be between the 2 properties.
Okay. Councillors, we originally had this proposal to us in July 2021, and we refused it originally on the grounds of.
Can I just check? Are you going into the discussion?
Oh, I'm sorry.
about it? If so, we
Thank you. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. That's my fault.
Okay, no worries.
Yeah. Sorry, Jane. Sorry, Jane. I got carried away. Yes. Yes. So, are there any other questions now? Do have a look at those. I'll pass those around if you want to have a quick look. That's the original. That's the new. Have a look and see if there are any questions of Jackie. Yes, Malcolm.
How close is it to the adjacent building?
There's the single-storey one, you mean?
The existing house?
The existing house. You're going to ask me that question, I can't tell you. There's quite the existing house.
Looking at
being-
this, the property here.
Oh no, that's yeah, the one next to it.
Yes.
There is a footpath between the proposed garage and the next door's existing garage, and that's 1800 mil, 6 foot. There's there's a division of a fence between, but what you're actually seeing on the block is the garage. Their garage is actually running from front to back, on the side. It's actually, if you've got the street, have you got a street scene?
No.
It might be easier for you to see. Sorry, if I can just find that, I've got one. I'm just thinking it might be just clearer for you to see that. I'm sure I put one in. There it is. It might just be a little bit easier, if I may, just to... So that's the street scene. So that's the proposal here. Then there's a fence, and then this is the existing property with their garage. So the two garages are together. Is that all right?
Can I have a look at that sample? Or John as well?
It might be just a bit easier.
Jane, what
Yes.
also is the distance you've got from the fence to the neighbour's garage?
That's existing anyway, and
Yes.
there's about the existing neighbours is on a slight slope, so it is slightly wider on the front, but it's about 900 mil
Okay.
on both sides.
Okay.
We're you know.
Amanda, do you want to look at that? Thank you. Thanks. Any other questions? Jack? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Why don't you-
Right, so we'll close the public meeting now and open our own council. So
Thank you.
really you have to leave it with us now.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I leave it.
Thank you.
That's very
Thank
kind.
you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank
Do
you.
appreciate
Thanks
that.
for coming in.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, close the public session, open our own. First of all, welcome to John and welcome to Amanda for sticking by the process and seeing it through and getting yourself elected as councillors. That's brilliant. And also congratulations to Bob on being re-elected in his position for Somerset. It's great news. Okay, the first item of business is that I step down and ask Malcolm to take the chair because we need to propose the vote on the new chairman.
We'll play musical chairs for a few minutes.
Here.
Okay. So we need to ask for
Sorry?
any nominations for the position of chairman. Who's coming here?
We have before us the application for
We don't have-
chairman. Do we have any nominations at all? Thank you, Bob.
Can I nominate Colin Townsend?
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Amanda.
Any other nominations?
Any other nominations at all? Welcome back to this seat, Colin.
What's it like Saturday, Colin? Do you like it?
I'll get used to it, don't worry. Thank you very much. Obviously, it's early days for a new council, and also, we'll see how we get on over the next year. To receive apologies.
Just from Nigel Summers.
Okay.
He's away in Turkey at the moment. He decided Turkey was a more attractive proposition coming to an annual meeting.
Good decision.
Extraordinary, really.
All those in favour of accepting that apology? Thank you. Declarations of interest, pecuniary,
Council
etc.
District.
Bob?
Yeah, can I do my declaration for the district council and now the Somerset Council?
So
And
is
also,
it's not called unitary yet, is it?
no, well, I think it's safe to just go with Somerset
Right,
Council.
okay. That's terminology, right?
And then, as a trustee of the parish hall, if any items come up relating to the parish hall.
Thank you, Bob.
Any other declarations?
Any other associated with any of the business? No?
Okay.
Okay. To elect a vice chairman for the forthcoming year. I would like to propose that Malcolm continues as a vice chairman for the forthcoming council year. He's been a good support and a regular attendee and takes an interest in what we're doing. I think he's a valuable member of the council, so I'd like to propose him. Do I have a second? John, thank you. All those in favour? That's it. Well done, Malcolm.
Thank you for your confidence.
Okay. Right, you've had the meeting. Have you had the minutes of the meetings?
Yes, meetings, two meetings in April actually. We had the 6th of April, which is our main business meeting, and then we had a planning meeting on the 20th to discuss one planning application.
Okay.
So we've got two sets of minutes for April.
For those that were in attendance and you've seen the minutes, are you happy that our sign is a true record? Bob? Malcolm? Yeah, thank you.
Can you just put your signature on the back there?
Okay. Thank you. Do I date it or you date it?
Diamond, yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Owen. Next item is item 6. Generally, what happens, John and Amanda, we elect people to form groups or take personal responsibility, either individually or as pairs, for these various items. But rather than twist your arms and bend them backwards or whatever, what I propose to do this evening is leave those until the next meeting, when we will have the opportunity to interview potential co-opting members, and then once we've co-opted our new council, then we can invite them to take an interest on these particular items, get them in, people involved straight away.
There's one where you do need to actually decide on the shop working group, because we should be meeting before now and the next meeting, so that needs to be considered.
Okay.
And also the payment signatories, we do need another payment signatory on there, because we need 2 for authorisation, and if one was unable to do so, we're then stumped in terms of making payments, so we need another person, and it would need to be, I'm afraid now it's going to need to be somebody who's internet.
I appreciate that.
So it's going to have to be John or Amanda. We've got Colin and Bob at the moment, and Andrea was the 3rd signatory. So we need one or other who is happy to take that role on.
Is that an electoral signature then?
So basically, what you do is basically I set up payments, and then you go in and effectively authorise those payments that have been agreed on the previous meeting. So when we come to payments this evening, we'll agree on a number of payments. I'll go in tomorrow morning and set the payments up, and then at the moment Bob and Colin will just go and authorise it. You have to be registered with the bank, obviously, because you need a code and password. And that process can take up to a month to sort out, so it's not an instant. They're quite slow with banks in getting these things sorted out, so the sooner we get underway with it, the better, obviously. So it's a question of how easy you feel about, going on to internet banking.
So from my side, I do internet banking anyway. I spend my life on the computer, but on the flip side, I spend my life also on the road, out Monday to Friday,
Yeah, sure.
out working. So
Yeah.
if that is an issue, then potentially that maybe rules me out.
What about you, Mandy?
Yeah, well, I do internet banking, so I'm familiar with it. Yeah, I go in for breakfast every morning. I do.
Could I suggest that it's worth doing both? We end up with 4, it's perm 2 from 4,
Exactly.
and people are away.
Good idea.
We've got a better chance
Good
of
idea.
having that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And making a difference, we've only got to fill in one form, and we did 1 or 2.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. Okay.
is
So,
the meeting happy with that?
yeah, perfectly. Yeah.
Okay.
So Amanda and John.
And
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Shop working group. What currently is there? Well, Andy Holmes was on the working group with Bob and myself, where we meet with the shop representatives and the village hall representatives on a fairly regular basis, but we need to start to move this forward now. Are we meeting during the day generally?
It's been a bit of both, hasn't it?
Yeah.
because we have had evening meetings.
Yeah. So John, it's a mixture of meetings, Amanda, a mixture of meetings. Could be day, could be evening, but obviously it's an important project. I don't know how you feel about the shop, John, having been originally involved with it.
Probably not one for me. I put a lot of energy in the beginning and really felt like a number of people did with work commitments, etc. So I'll probably say there's not one for myself.
No, I can well understand that. Yeah. Thanks for your honesty.
Yep.
Shall we leave it until we get our further counsel, and then it could well be.
We've got a meeting coming up, haven't we, which we might,
Yeah.
so would it be appropriate to maybe appoint two and then appropriate a third member when we get more members to pick from?
Yes, I think so. Yeah. So so what will happen then? Bob, and Owen are going to meet the architect. Is it this Friday or the following Friday? I forget.
It's 20th.
Yeah.
Next week.
Yeah. So that's a meeting with the architect. So we're not actually meeting with the shop as yet. So if you're happy with that, then I suggest at the June meeting we formalise who's going to take that third position, as it were.
Also, one thing also just to mention to new members, when we have these sort of working parties, they're not decision-making groups. So we'll get information, we'll bring it back to the council, and it's the council that makes the decision. So it's not, we're not going off and doing stuff without the approval.
It's a working group as opposed to a committee.
There was some excellent stuff in the presentation that you put on a couple of weeks ago about such and so it's good to cover.
Okay. So other than that, then we'll leave item 6 to when we get our full or our bigger complement. Okay. 7 then, planning. Has Nigel left any form of report? Okay. All right.
We're on our own.
Okay. And we've got a quorum in order to decide.
Yeah.
Okay. You heard Jackie, who was accompanied by her architect this evening. We originally, sorry I was out of order, we originally reviewed this case, or this particular application, in July 2021, and we refused it. We refused it on the basis of overdevelopment and privacy and proximity to the neighbouring property. There are also a couple of concerns from Network Rail that they need, if this did go ahead, because the access is down by the side of the bridge across to the railway. They will need to ensure that they have access along that road at all times in the event of any problem. I don't think it's a major problem, but it's something that they've got to work within. And the ecology report says they must take into consideration certain objections that the ecology, not objections, considerations that the ecology report has recommended. But essentially, we refused it, and they've resubmitted it, and the only difference that has been given, or consideration has been given, is a reduction in the roof height. Before, the roof was going to be like that, straight and hipped. Now it's the traditional roof, but lower, the ridge is lower, and they have introduced 6 dormer windows on either side of the property. So it's essentially, they haven't repositioned the building in the site at all. The same issues of privacy and proximity to neighbouring property has arisen. There is an objection from the neighbour who has objected, because it's going to be quite a imposing, I suppose, structure when you look at that's the existing bungalow which is there, and they're going to be looking straight on to just show you the garage and the end of the house there. They'll be looking straight onto. I don't know what. I can understand the need for problem housing and a wish to create another property, but I just wonder whether it's in keeping with the existing bungalow that's next door and a bigger house that's down the far end of the property. It doesn't, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the other property, the other side is also a bungalow. And over the road there are the units that they're doing at the moment. They are low level, aren't they? So it just seems to me that it's still not in keeping. It hasn't. They haven't listened to what we've said. But I'll be guided by you as to what you feel, John.
I think I concur with what you just said there entirely. It's very difficult to argue that it's changed, it's overdevelopment of the plot, and it's the same physical mass of house. I've taken a walk down there, I've driven past there over the years, and I know that area of the road. It's not changed of its size. Then to me it ticks the same boxes as before. A roof tweak is a roof tweak. And you are quite correct, the bungalows on the side and the single story the other side of the road. I wasn't aware obviously of the British Rail and the access point there, but you are right, that is probably an important consideration next to the bridge. Just obviously the railway and the access there as well, so that probably is another important consideration. So I agree entirely with that.
Okay.
Yes, I was approached by this neighbour who reiterated her objection to this today. She spoke to me today and she said that she knew.
What is the nature of her objection? Obviously, it's
Well,
got to be a
it's
planning.
overshadowing her property, which is the bungalow, and it's so close to it as well, which we said about in the original objections. I think reducing the roof that height doesn't effectively alter the physical structure very much at all.
Okay. Amanda, any
Yeah,
thoughts?
I totally agree. If it was overdevelopment before and the plot size hasn't reduced, then it's still overdevelopment.
Yeah.
And you've got to feel sorry for the person who Malcolm just said, who spoke to him.
Yeah, we must be careful that we can't say we're. It's not a legitimate planning
No.
objection, and the more you find out about it as you get involved. But I think the principles still comprise. It is an overdevelopment and not in keeping, for want of a better word, with the existing properties to which it is adjacent to.
I think, again, just to add to that, the way the sun runs there as well, it's going to go across the top. The sun sets in the west, as we know, and it comes across, and that obviously with a overdeveloped structure, that would be a certainly a thing in terms of shade and light. Yeah.
Okay, so Malcolm, is there a proposal there somewhere that you would like to move?
Yes, I think it's an overdevelopment of the site, and it's overshadowing other properties.
Okay. Exactly the same as previous then, really. Okay, so essentially we're once again, we're refusing it on the basis of overdevelopment, privacy and proximity to the neighbouring property, and what else?
Not in keeping, basically.
Not
in keeping with
no,
and
no.
overdevelopment with the over.
Yeah, overdevelopment, not in keeping.
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favour?
And just so you know, what I do with that now, simply I complete my documents to Sedgman tomorrow morning. Sedgman will get us as a consultee only, and they will add it to all other consultees that they've had on planning applications. And the case officer will look at it and decide whether he agrees with us, or she agrees with us, or whether they don't. And that will determine where it goes, whether it goes to committee or whether it stays as a delegated authority. So,
Right.
Bob?
You get Bob. Bob!
Pretty good, isn't it?
Thank you. Okay, 8, policy review and adoption.
Because of the new council, there are 3 basic documents, statutory documents, if you like, that we need to seek adoption from the new council. And even if actually the new council had been existing the same as the old one, it would still need to be adopted at this meeting. So we've got a new code of conduct, which is now the recommended, by Roger.
Bye, Ben. Bye, Roger.
The new code of conduct, which is recommended and currently in use by the district and is it currently used, Bob? Have you started using it? So we're all in sync with the same code of conduct. It does make sense actually. And what I sent out to you earlier on was a slightly pre-seed version of the original one. She called it a clean document. Well, what she's done is taken the fat out of it and left it without all the sort of italics and crossings out and other things that tend to happen with these documents. So, but it's the same, in principle, the same document. So we need approval, we need that adopted. The standing orders are the version of 2018, which is when they were last changed. We don't have to adopt national standing orders. We can write our own if we wish to. But generally speaking, most parish councils that I know find it easier to adopt national standing orders because they seem to cover everything and make our job a bit easier than having to read it. The other important one, which is not actually statute, but I always think in our case where we do film meetings, it's important to have an adoption to the filming of meetings policy as well. Some councils don't film meetings on a regular basis, although people can come and do it, but we have actually got a policy for filming meetings, which is unchanged from the previous one. And then finally the financial regulations, which in fact were adopted on April the 6th, because it's a financial document rather than a statutory document of a new council. So we have to do that in the April. And there are a whole raft of other policy documents that need to be reviewed during the year, but these are the ones that need to be adopted at this meeting. Well, not the financial regulations, but the other 3.
Can I propose that we adopt the new code of conduct, the parish council basic standing orders, our filming of meetings policy, and are we going to leave the financial?
You leave it because they've already been adopted for a year.
So
anyway.
could I propose that we accept those 3 policies in particular so we can move forward? I mean, there's no change really.
Just one thing. Just one thing. I've done 2 of the 6 packs, which have got the code of conduct, standing orders, and the financial regulations in them. Okay, and a set of guidelines, meeting dates, parish surgery dates, etc., etc. It's a whole raft of stuff. I've done Manders and Johns because I thought it was most important for them because they, need perhaps do a bit of light reading. And I'll do the others for the June meeting. So you've got all the documentation there. If you feel so inclined to take the time reading them.
Can I propose then that we accept the first 3 then and just move forward on those? Those in favour? That's lovely, thank you. Financial regs will leave.
Yeah.
Finance matters?
Well, the financial matters are quite straightforward really. We have a number of payments that we make on what we call statutory payments each year, and they're things that actually we cannot change. They're uncontrollable, if you like, and we agree them at the beginning of the financial year, which is April, and they include things like water rates for the toilet block, and it includes the Eon Energy supply to the toilet block, it includes staff salaries in the village contract, and play inspection, which is done by GB Sports every month. So they are what we call statutory, and we don't bring those to the meeting individually each month because they've been agreed on an annual basis in April. And then we have a number of payments which are one-off payments, which are things that probably only come in once a year or just completely one-off payments. And on this particular month we've got the Evola Speed Indicator Device payment, which is outstanding from last September. They've only just sent us a reminder of that. So, and that's for 2,276, including 379 VAT, which we can claim back. So obviously our net figure is less than the gross figure, because we can claim the VAT back in the fullness of time. The Ukrainian flag, which was £92.04, with 15.34 VAT attached to that. The internal audit fee that we paid to Richard Young, £25. The SELC remote training, which Andy did back along. He's not here now, but Andy did some training, and SELC have made a charge for that. And also the council insurance policy renewal for 22-23, £1,229.31, and that's actually the second of a 3-year agreement. So they've held it effectively for 3 years. We paid slightly more last year, but we didn't get any increase this year, and we won't next year. So that covers, and you're very, entitled to see the policy anytime you want to see the insurance policy, to make sure you're covered as a member of the council. And I can assure you are, but there are certain covers there which are quite important. So that's basically, we need a resolution to approve those payments for May 2022.
Can I propose that we accept or pass, we're talking about item B in particular.
We are, the whole of item B.
So the whole of item B, can I propose that those are paid with immediate effect, please? Thank you, that's great. Financial signatures we've dealt with.
That,
yeah, okay. Right, where are we on Hill Lane?
Right, I spoke to Charles Fleming today, our solicitor. He's still waiting on the seller's solicitor. As far as he's concerned, it's all done and dusted. He's still
Give
waiting.
a bit of background just for the new members as to what.
Yeah.
What
Well, do you want to give background? I mean, obviously, we're basically looking to buy a piece of land on Hill Lane for £1, which Mr. Diamond has offered us very kindly. But like all legal things, it's taken time to get it to a conclusion. And once we've got it to a conclusion, of course, we can then do the work on it that we wish to do. There are a number of things there, a number of legal bits which will become clear once we've got the paperwork. But Colin and Bob have signed on behalf of the council. I'm just waiting to exchange contracts with Mr. Diamond's solicitors. And it's Mr. Diamond's solicitors at the moment who are waiting to get the paperwork so that he can do the swap. And once that's done, we're in business. Hopefully by the June meeting, we definitely should have them ready.
And also just again to update the new members, we've got a range of contractors that come in and level the whole area and put it down so it's a much more usable area than it currently is. There's been a number of cars, as you know, that's got bogged up there over the years, so this should make it a much more much easier place to use.
Okay. B, co-option process. Do you want to outline where we are?
Well, basically we've got 4 people now wishing to be co-opted onto the parish council. We've started the process actually because we've done the advertising bit. We're not actually legally bound to do it. We could have co-opted tonight actually. We wouldn't have been breaking the law by co-opting. but we decided, I think, that it was a much fairer, open and transparent process if we gave people 28 days to decide whether they wanted to come on the parish council or not. So I think we've done the right thing. There's plenty of councils that haven't, but we've done the right thing, I believe. And we've had 4 people come forward to say they would like to be considered to be co-opted. And they will come along to the meeting in June, on June the 1st. And if they wish to say something to the council, they can do. They will have submitted their own sort of application, if you like. But if they want to say something to the council, to back that up, they can do so. And at that point, we can make a decision if there's more than 5, because we need 5 councillors to become a full council, then of course we'd have to choose from that. So if there were 6 came forward, we'd be choosing 5. If there was only 4 came forward, and we were happy with all the applicants, then we would effectively, sign up those 4. But you're not obliged to, because the fact they've come forward, if you don't think that their application is strong enough, or there's some reason why you believe they shouldn't be councillors, someone lurking around that perhaps others don't know about, then you're fully entitled to say, no, I don't think that person is a fit person to be a councillor. So it's not a done deal just because they are the right number of people. You still have the choice and the chance to co-opt them at that meeting. And we may get some more between now and then, of course. We may well get a few more applicants. We just don't know. But that's the process we've adopted. Had the process been different, and had we been sort of 2 years into the existing council, and we'd had a vacancy, then the process would have been different. We would have to have advertised it, and 10 electors could come forward and force an election if they felt that was appropriate. So it's a different process, but on this one, because it's so soon after the elections, we're told that it can be done immediately within that process. We can't disclose those applicants at this meeting as a public meeting, but we can disclose it individually outside this meeting, because obviously we wouldn't refer to those applicants if we publicised it at this stage.
Are we going to be able to see their applications? So
Well, the application I got from all of them is basically the emails. I haven't got any more than that. Now, whether we want more than that is a matter for you, really. Whether you feel we want a formal application on a document, then that's a matter for you, really.
My own view, I don't know what people think, but I think it's nice that someone tells us about themselves, what their interests are, and why they think they will benefit from being a council member, and then give us the opportunity to ask some questions. Because it's strange actually, over the years, none of us know each other's backgrounds, where we've come from, and what our specialisms are, and it's very interesting. We've obviously found out those that want to tell us, but a lot of us don't necessarily broadcast what we've done, and it's quite interesting. And I think if we were to do that, probably one night maybe, not off camera maybe, just to tell each other a brief outline of our careers and what our specialisms are and what we feel we bring, I think it would be quite good, because we probably get to understand each other a little bit more as to where we're all coming from. I think that would be a really good exercise to do. So I don't know what people think about that. Phil? Because we are very varied, and we don't know.
Might disclose some murky past.
That's right,
nobody
yeah.
knows about.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, tiny Her Majesty's. Okay, no, that would be good. Okay, surgery dates.
Well, you've got those in your packs, of course, and I've distributed them online. If you want further copies, I can send it on to you, but you've got it there in front of you. Yeah? So, the only thing is on on the meeting dates is the surgery dates. They're slightly curious because they're not always in the same month as the meeting. I mean, for example, the next one is 31st of May, so technically we're having 2 surgeries in May, but it's only because the way the dates run, June the 1st is a Wednesday, so that's how the surgery kind of works. And we need to have ideally one member of the council on there. I mean, I was there on my own yesterday. Fortunately, there was not a lot of attendance. But to be honest with you, it's not a good look if the clerk is there and not a member of the council. You know, it would be better if we could have occasionally, well, I mean, we don't have to always have council there, but it's better if we can. And because the more councils we get, the less frequent it'll be. It'll only be perhaps once a year or something. You know, we're happy with that.
They are at 10 o'clock generally, aren't they?
10 o'clock in the
So,
morning, which might pose John.
John, if that gives you a
Well,
problem,
might
or
pose
indeed
Amanda a problem
Amanda.
as well.
Who is the person for the 31st?
Well, we haven't got one at the moment, that's the whole point.